I just saw the new Adam Elliott film Memoir of a Snail, and I have some thoughts that I'd love to share with you guys, so let's get into it. So, Memoir of a Snail is very much like Mary and Max, a film from Adam Elliott, who specializes in claymation projects, very Australian films, usually with a complete Australian voice cast, and with many motifs and visual nods to Australia, and this one is no different. These projects take a very long time to make. From what I heard, this movie took 7 years to make, and you can see that the claymation here looks absolutely stunning, and it is something that I have so much respect for, the amount of time that it must take to create every single shot and to make it look as glorious as these movies is such an achievement of filmmaking. There's just so much great production value here, and to me that is the number one standout thing to me for Memoir of a Snail. It's production value. You know, there's such settings like Luna Park in Melbourne, locations that I have been to before. Seeing it realized in this claymation world looks stunning, and it just works in terms of capturing a certain vibe and essence of these movies. Like Mary and Max, Memoir of a Snail is very much a slice of life kind of movie, following this character that has had a lot of difficulties in their upbringing. And the film very smartly explores the way in which people trap themselves within their trauma and don't let themselves to flourish and blossom as human beings because of things that have happened in their past. I think the way that it weaves between those themes is very interesting, exploring two characters here, a brother and a sister, and seeing how their dynamic changes over the course of the film is a source of heartbreak for sure, as the film does a really good job of making you connect with these characters and caring about where they're going to be in life. The film is structured in a very unorthodox way at times as well, and one that doesn't always work for me, where it almost feels like it's told within these vignettes. You have a short section detailing a segment of these characters' lives, and then it feels like it moves forward. There's a lot of narration here. Most of this story is someone recounting their life, and because of that, it relies very much on visual storytelling, which I do think it does a good job of, but because of it's told in this fashion of all these different vignettes, it jumps around a lot, and sometimes that makes it difficult for it to pick up a rhythm. You're really getting engaged in this one portion of these characters' lives, and then it quickly jumps to something else or moves to a completely different character's backstory, and you begin to find yourself fascinated in that backstory, and then it jumps to something else. And while these little vignettes are super important and relevant to the narrative and the important pieces of this story, it doesn't quite come together as satisfying as I would have liked. I do need to mention as well that Adam Elliott's style of filmmaking isn't one that has always been on my wavelength, so I have had some struggles in really clicking and engaging with a lot of his work. I have found myself enjoying Memoir of a Snail a lot more than Mary and Max, but I did find its rhythm to be a little odd and not quite working for me 100% of the time. This is also very much an animated film for adults. There's very adult themes here, and the way it's presented is in an adult way for adults. It doesn't really feel like a kid's movie as much as something like a Pixar movie is. And that's perfectly fine. But I do think sometimes this film does fall into the trappings of being an animated film in terms of what it is bringing to us emotionally, because a lot of the time it does feel like a very dour film. It's very sad, and it just keeps pushing that. And while that can be fine, it does pivot and try to come to a more uplifting conclusion. And the way it does that feels very contrived. It doesn't feel quite as natural as I would have liked. And because of that, it can come across as emotionally manipulative, as it doesn't quite nail those moments. I actually found the final 15 minutes or so to be the weakest part of this movie, as it did feel very rushed and was just pushing things together that didn't quite fit as well as the rest of the narrative, where I didn't really question the goings on of this narrative. I was more questioning the way it was structured. But as we got into that third act, I was starting to question, okay, why was this strung together with this so quickly? And it just started unraveling a little bit before it reached its conclusion. Now, some of those sequences in that final act, I was emotionally moved by for sure. And I do think if it was strung together a little better, it would have been a home run. But I just couldn't quite connect with those moments as much as I would have liked because it wasn't strung together as neatly as it probably should have been. Overall, Memoir of a Snail is a good animated film. It's very beautiful to look at. It has a lot to say. It does it mostly in a very moving and emotional fashion with superb voice acting. And as a whole, I quite like this and really appreciated a lot of the efforts that Adam Elliott made into creating another world of his. As a score, I'm going to give Memoir of a Snail a pretty strong 3.5 out of 5. I do think it's a solid movie that is worth your time, especially if you're looking for a little bit more of a mature style of animation. This might be a film worth watching. And those are my thoughts towards Memoir of a Snail. If you've seen the movie, let me know what you think about it in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.